Botanical art is different from a lot of the other art that I do. I started with botanical art because I wanted to get a little more refined in my skills. I'm a good drawer and I've always been able to draw, but I wanted to have the preciseness of botanical art. It's scientific. You use teeny tiny little brushes to get the finest of detail. It started as an art form for scientists because when they were going around the 18th century and finding all these plants all over the world, in fact, that was the way people made their fortunes back then. Captain Cook could get on a boat and take an artist along with him, and they draw all these wonderful things that they found in different countries. That was really the glory era of botanical art because it was teaching people what things really looked like and also how they grew. You had to know the botany of the plant. You had to know what pollinated it. You had to know the cycles of its life. So early botanicals would actually notate different features of the plant around the painting of it, and it had to be so precise. I liked it because when you were making botanical art, you would see little parts of the plant, the sepals or where the ovary was. All of a sudden you'd notice it, things you never noticed before. Oh, that's how that did that. I remember one time looking at a tiny little ground orchid, and I thought, I wonder what pollinates this. Bees weren't around it or anything, and I was drawing it. And I realized that on the bottom petal, there were like little runways of flowery things that went right up to the ovaries. And you went, oh gosh, that has to be pollinated by ants. And they go right up this little runway on the bottom leaf in to get the pollen. So that was the fun part of doing the botanicals. The preciseness, the accuracy of drawing, the interesting knowledge that you got about plants and identifying. It was really an adventure in finding out more about botany and gardening. Not that I was without that. I grew up with plants, planting plants, watering plants, taking care of plants, gardening with a capital G, but I didn't know enough about the science of plants. So that's what attracted me to the botanical art, and it's also what fed my mind. I have drawn since I was a little kid. You know, there's one kid in school who can draw. That was probably me. Actually, I remember my very first drawing of drawing a cabbage, and I was the one who figured out how to draw a cabbage. I think it was in second grade, and everybody copied me, which was good. I guess I started drawing plants really, really early. A lot of that's because I think I grew up around plants. My father had a greenhouse, and we had probably an acre of garden around our home. He was a musician, but he loved plants, and his father loved irises, so my father had a whole field of irises. Anyhow, plants have been a big part of my life. He actually had a three-room greenhouse when I was growing up. It was a commercial greenhouse. I was the planter, the salesperson, and all those things when I was about a teenager. Naturally, it was possible for me to draw flowers and things like that. I had a kind of an unusual plant. It was the Taka Chiante, or the bat flower. It's got a really unusual flower. It's got black flowers in it. I have one that I did in a botanical form. It has got the bright color of the plant. It has a long stem. It almost looks like some kind of plant invented for outer space. And I drew that, and one of them came out accurate, but the other one is more of an emerging form. The plant itself is creepy looking. I kind of expanded on a little bit of the creepiness of it, and that was fun. I just love painting the roots on an orchid. They're so complicated, they're textured, have their own spidery feel to them. You figure out that tangle, and it's fun. That kind of led into looking at things more like an artist, because artists don't look at the detail as much as the pattern, the light, the form, the colors, the shapes. Nature itself is inspiring. It's been a transition. Flowers are a part of nature. I like to paint them, and I will probably always paint them. I wanted to do more. I wanted to look at things from a distance, and what I found about painting flowers were there were certain things that interested me a lot more than just the accuracy of the color of a leaf or something like that. So I started using the composition in a more artistic way to interpret rather than replicate.